I hadn't even stepped all the way through the ballroom doors when Mom turned around and hissed, "Don't embarrass us tonight." She didn't say hello, didn't ask how the 5-hour drive went, just grabbed my arm, tight, and scanned my dress like it was a report card she already knew I'd failed. Then she gave that look. The one that's half pity, half performance. Like she's sorry she raised a daughter who couldn't pull herself together. All around us, the room sparkled. Crystal glasses, gold-trimmed napkins, orchids cascading down 3-tier centerpieces. A live string quartet played something soft and classical near the far corner. And in the middle of it all, my brother and his bride looked like they'd stepped off a magazine cover, both dressed head to toe in designer custom fits, glowing like royalty under the warm white lights. I knew the budget because I'd overheard them brag about it. $60,000. 60. And yet, when I got engaged 3 months earlier, the first thing Mom said was, "Let's not make a big fuss. Keep it simple, maybe a backyard thing. You always said you didn't want the spotlight." No, I hadn't. Not once. I had said I didn't need fancy. I had said I didn't want debt. But I never said I wanted to feel like a charity case, like an afterthought. Still, I nodded that night. I smiled. I even said thank you when she offered to help with the cake, like it was some grand gesture. Like I should be grateful she even acknowledged I was getting married at all. But standing there in that ballroom, it hit different. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the message. This glittering spectacle was love, was pride, was celebration. And whatever mine was, it didn't even deserve matching chairs. Mom's voice cut in again, soft and sweet, but with that familiar blade tucked underneath. "Now go find a seat in the back. You weren't in the rehearsal dinner, so you're not walking in." The back. I looked around. Rows of cousins, family friends, people I barely remembered, seated close, laughing with plates already half filled. Meanwhile, the only table left with open chairs was near the restrooms. I hadn't even sat down yet when Aunt Denise leaned over and whispered, "Why didn't you wear makeup? This is a wedding, honey." And across from her, Uncle Ray chuckled, "Guess the city life made you forget Southern manners." I smiled. I swallowed. I told myself I could get through this dinner. But then the slideshow started. Photos of my brother growing up, playing sports, graduating, moving in with his fiancée, holding their dog like a baby. Everyone awed and clapped. And then, slide 23, was a family Christmas photo from 3 years ago. They had cropped me out. I stared at the screen. My arm was still there, caught mid-wave on the edge, but my face was gone. My entire presence, erased. No one else noticed. Or if they did, they didn't care. Until a voice piped up behind me, a little girl, maybe 8, maybe 9. She tugged at her mother's sleeve and pointed. "Why is there a hand in the picture but no person?" And just like that, the room went still. Heads turned. I sat frozen. My fork resting against untouched mashed potatoes. Her mom hushed her, but the damage was done. Someone whispered, Was that her?" And across the table, Dad didn't even look my way. Just took another bite of steak, like nothing happened. Like I hadn't driven 5 hours to be cropped out of a slideshow at my own brother's $60,000 wedding. I didn't say a word. Not when the slideshow rolled on like nothing had happened. Not when Aunt Denise whispered that maybe it was just a mistake. Not when the bride's mother glanced over at me and then quickly looked away. Like I was something unfortunate she'd stepped over. No one apologized. No one asked. No one even pretended to care that I'd been scrubbed clean from the memories they chose to display. So I just sat there. Still. A ghost at my own family celebration. Dinner came and went. Speeches followed. My brother toasted to everyone who helped us become who we are, and looked straight at Mom and Dad while raising his glass. The room erupted in applause. My name wasn't mentioned once. Then came the part that nearly broke me. A waiter approached our table, carrying a tray of champagne flutes for the toast. He glanced down at me and hesitated, holding one out with a polite smile. Before I could take it, Mom reached over, took it from his hand and said, "Oh no, she's driving." Then, quieter, just for me, "You're not really part of the bridal party anyway, let's not draw attention." My hands dropped into my lap. I wasn't driving, my fiancé was. But Mom didn't ask, and I didn't correct her. What would have been the point? When the dancing started, I slipped out. past the flower walls, past the rows of black SUVs and valets, past the women adjusting their heels and fixing their curls in the reflection of the hotel windows. I walked until the music felt like a memory, faint, too far to matter. And I sat on a bench across the street where the light from the ballroom couldn't reach. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my fiancé. "Everything okay? Your mom said you stepped out for air." I didn't answer. I just watched the cars pass one by one and let the cold seep through my dress. How do you explain to someone that you weren't just left out, but edited out? Like you were a mistake someone corrected in post-production? I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually someone joined me. Not my fiancé, not my brother. It was my cousin Maya, younger than me by 5 years. The kind of girl who usually stayed quiet, polite, invisible at family gatherings. But she sat down close enough that I could feel her warmth and said just 3 words. That was cruel. That was all. And yet it was the first time that night, maybe the first time in years, I didn't feel crazy. She didn't try to justify, didn't offer platitudes or excuses. She just named it, cruel. I turned to her, finally blinking away the tears that had clung like glass to the corners of my eyes. She didn't look away. And that's when something shifted inside me. Just a little. Just enough. I realized I'd spent so many years trying not to upset the balance, trying to be the bigger person, trying to make my presence smaller so they wouldn't resent me for existing differently than they wanted. And still, here I was, cropped out, sat by the bathrooms, given no toast, no moment, no place. They had erased me. But I was still here. I was still here. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop asking why they didn't see me and start asking what I could build without their eyes on me at all. Some families raise you with love, others raise you with obligation disguised as duty. Mine gave me silence when I needed reassurance and applause when I didn't ask for it, but never in the moments that counted. Growing up, my brother Jordan was the shining star. Even as a kid, he had this effortless charm, messy curls, loud laughter, a way of making everyone feel like they were in on the joke. And me, I was the girl who refilled water pitchers at dinner, the one who stayed up late organizing Dad's receipts during tax season because he gets overwhelmed. When I was 9, Jordan broke his wrist falling off the monkey bars. I remember the way Mom cried in the ER. I remember how she held his head in her hands like it was made of porcelain. I remember how I sat in the corner, quiet, and watched her kiss his forehead again and again. I had pneumonia that week, but no one remembered. Later in high school, he got a full ride to his dream college, football scholarship, of course. There were banners, a family cookout, a professional photographer. When I got into NYU with a partial scholarship for writing, they said, "Wow, New York's expensive. Are you sure you don't want to apply somewhere more practical?" Still, I went. I worked 2 jobs. I skipped every spring break. I never asked them for money, not once. But when Jordan got in trouble for overspending his stipend, they wired him $3,000 overnight. "He's just a boy," Mom said. "You know how boys are." And I did know, because I'd watched her excuse his every mistake like it was just a phase. Meanwhile, my smallest misstep became a moral failing. My tiredness meant I wasn't trying hard enough. My silence meant I had an attitude. I once asked Mom gently if she thought I was hard to love. I'll never forget her reply. "No, sweetheart, you're just independent. You don't need things the way Jordan does." And somehow that felt worse than a no, because I did need things. I needed to be held the way she held him. I needed someone to ask if I was okay. I needed someone, just once, to choose me first. There was a winter just 2 years ago when everything should have become clear, but I wasn't ready to see it yet. Dad had injured his knee again, and they were behind on property taxes. Mom called, voice shaking. "If we don't pay by the 15th, we could lose the house. Jordan's in between jobs right now. We don't know what to do." I didn't hesitate. I didn't ask why Jordan wasn't helping. I just wired the money. $8,320. It was everything I'd been saving toward a down payment on a small apartment, my first chance at a place of my own. I told myself I could start over again next year. I told myself family came first. But they never paid me back. They never even brought it up again. A week later, Jordan posted a photo on Instagram from a ski trip in Aspen. Champagne, designer gear, big smiles. The caption read, "Earned, not given." I stared at it in my cold kitchen, wearing a $12 hoodie with a hole in the sleeve. I laughed a little, quiet and bitter, and didn't tell anyone. Because by then, I had learned to swallow the parts that hurt. But what happened next? That's the part I never forgot. 6 months later, I was at my parents' house helping Mom clear out a filing cabinet. She handed me a manila folder. "Just keep this safe for me," she said, like it was nothing. Inside were legal documents, deed transfer forms, mortgage refinancing agreements. My name was on them. In 2018, they had refinanced the house using my credit score, without asking, without telling me. I just sat there, staring at the papers. They'd taken a loan, put it under my name, and never said a word. When I brought it up gently, Mom didn't even flinch. "Well, we needed someone reliable. Your brother didn't have the credit. You didn't even notice, so what's the harm?" That moment cracked something in me. Not because of the paperwork, not even because of the money, but because of the ease with which she said it. Like my life, my signature, my future, was just a tool they could borrow, like a casserole dish or a garden hose, like it belonged to them more than it did to me. I should have walked away then. But I didn't. Because trauma teaches you to mistake tolerance for strength. It convinces you that loyalty means staying, even when staying breaks you. So I kept showing up. When Dad lost his job, I drove groceries across town every weekend. When Jordan had his first big breakup, I was the one who sat with him while he cried, even though I was grieving the death of my own relationship in silence. And when I got engaged last year, I still hoped they'd be excited. They weren't. The first thing Mom said when I told her was, "Let's not go overboard. Maybe a small backyard thing? Keep it simple. You always said you didn't want attention." I never said that. I said I didn't need flash, but I wanted to be seen. Even then, I tried to smile. I told her we'd figure it out. I told myself that maybe, just maybe, this time they'd come through, that they'd show up the way I always had for them. But standing in that wedding ballroom weeks later, cropped out of the slideshow sent to the back of the room, treated like a stain they didn't want to acknowledge, I realized they weren't going to change. And love, real love, doesn't make you invisible. I thought I'd already hit my limit. That being cropped out of the slideshow, sent to sit by the bathrooms, and reduced to a background prop at my own brother's wedding would be the worst of it. But I was wrong. Because a week later, I got a phone call. It was from a real estate agent. He was friendly, cheerful even. Said he was confirming the timeline for the open house that upcoming Sunday. "Just wanted to be sure you and your tenants are out by noon. We'll need the place cleared for viewings." I blinked. "What place?" "The house," he said like I should have known. "The one under your name on Ellsworth. Your family listed it through our agency. They said you were coordinating the move-out." My throat went dry. The house on Ellsworth. My parents' house. The one they refinanced under my name. The one they never told me they put in only my name to secure better interest rates. And apparently, the one they were now selling without telling me. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just said, "Thanks for letting me know," and hung up. Then I sat on the floor for a long time, staring at nothing. It wasn't the money. It was the erasure. They were doing it again, rewriting reality like I was just a convenient tool, a credit score, a cosigner, a ghost, and I was done pretending I didn't notice. That night, I drove to their house. The living room was still cluttered with leftover decor from the wedding. Ivory ribbons, empty champagne bottles, a stack of unused Bride Tribe t-shirts still in their shrink wrap. Mom was on the couch, watching a cooking show. Dad was dozing off in his recliner. I stood in the doorway and said, "You're selling the house." Mom looked up, blinked like I just asked about the weather. "Oh, that," I repeated, voice calm but tight. She set the remote down. "Well, it just makes sense. It's too much house for us now. Jordan's thinking of moving back, and we thought it'd be good to free up some equity. You listed it without telling me. It's in my name." And then she said it. The sentence that would undo the last thread holding me together. "You knew it was always our house. We just needed your name on paper. It's not like you were ever going to live here." I stared at her, and for the first time, I let the silence stretch. I didn't fill it with explanations or apologies. I just let it hurt. Dad didn't say a word, just adjusted his blanket and looked away. Jordan came downstairs halfway through, shirtless, smirking. "What's the drama now?" Mom waved him off. She's upset about the house thing. Don't make it worse. He looked at me and said, you've always been so emotional. This is why people don't loop you in. It's exhausting. And that was the moment it happened. I felt something inside me snap. Not loud, not angry, just final. I wasn't going to cry in their living room again. I wasn't going to defend my right to be hurt. I wasn't going to beg for space at a table I had built with my own hands. No more. And without saying a word, I turned and walked out the door. But not without taking one thing with me. In the hallway right before the front door sat the old filing cabinet. The one Mom always told me to leave alone. The one she said was just old tax stuff and none of your business. I opened it. No one stopped me. No one asked what I was doing. Because they didn't think I'd actually do it. Not me. Not the easy one. I pulled the drawer labeled mortgage and took everything with my name on it. Originals, scanned copies, post-it notes with Mom's handwriting. Use her ID for this, scrawled in the corner of a refinancing folder. Then I walked out with the whole stack tucked under my arm. I didn't slam the door. I didn't curse or yell. I just left, quiet and clear. Because this time I wasn't going to explain why I was hurt. I wasn't going to ask them to stop. I was going to stop them. And they wouldn't even see it coming. Back at home, I stayed up all night. I read every page, every signature, every line of fine print. The house was legally mine. The mortgage had been paid on time by me indirectly, through credit pulls and paper trails. But the equity? The proceeds from the upcoming sale? They were trying to funnel that to Jordan. His name was listed in a draft purchase agreement from the realtor. As financial consultant, he would be receiving a facilitation bonus out of the proceeds. Almost $20,000. That was it. That was the part that made my hands stop shaking. Because now, it wasn't just neglect. It wasn't just emotional erasure. It was theft. And theft leaves a paper trail. The next morning, I scheduled a meeting with a property attorney, one who specialized in title fraud and family asset disputes. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. Boundaries. The legal equivalent of drawing a line in permanent marker where my presence used to be penciled in. When I sat down in her office with the folders, she listened quietly as I spoke. Then she asked just one question. Do they know you're the only name on this title? I shook my head. They assume I won't do anything. I never have. She smiled. Not cruelly, not triumphantly. Just the way someone smiles when they know what you've forgotten. That the quiet ones are often the most dangerous when they've finally had enough. We drafted a cease and desist, filed a temporary injunction on the property sale, and I sent my family a short, polite message. Please direct all questions about the house through my attorney from now on. All sale activity is suspended. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. Then I turned off my phone. It buzzed for hours. But I didn't answer, because for the first time, I wasn't looking for their approval. I wasn't trying to prove my worth. I wasn't hoping they'd finally see me. I was protecting what was mine. And in the quiet that followed, beneath all that silence they'd taught me to live inside, I found something sharp, steady, not anger, but resolve. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning, not a courtroom trial, just a legal conference with a neutral mediator, both parties' attorneys, and a formal review of the property ownership and sale attempts. Clean, procedural. But I knew what it really was, a reckoning. I wore navy, no frills, hair back, folder in hand. My attorney, Meredith, sat beside me like the calm center of a storm. She barely blinked. Mom, Dad, and Jordan walked in 10 minutes late. Jordan wore sunglasses indoors. Mom wore purrs. Dad wouldn't look me in the eye. They weren't nervous. They didn't think they had to be. Because in their minds, I was still the daughter who stayed silent. The one who sent money without asking questions. Who swallowed her hurt with a smile and told herself they meant well. But that version of me, she didn't come to this meeting. The mediator started with formalities, asked Meredith to speak first. She did. Calm, direct, and devastating. This property is solely under my client's legal name. The mortgage, taxes, and ownership documents have been verified, and so has the unauthorized sale attempt by family members acting without consent. We are requesting a full halt of all activity, damages for breach of title security, and a public notarized declaration of withdrawal by the respondents. Mom blinked. What is she talking about? She said, voice a little too high. Meredith didn't flinch. I'm talking about the signed listing agreement with a real estate agent, which included your son as a payout recipient. I'm talking about forged intent statements. I'm talking about misrepresentation. The room was dead quiet. Then Jordan laughed. Oh, come on. You're really doing this? To your own family? I turned to him for the first time, and I said gently, You did this to your family, Jordan. I'm just cleaning it up. That's when Dad spoke for the first time. This is ridiculous. We raised you. That house, this family, we built it. I nodded. And then you put it all on my back and called it love. The mediator stepped in to cool things down, but the silence had already shifted. The balance of power, the energy in the room, it wasn't theirs anymore. Meredith pushed forward the stack of documents I'd taken from the filing cabinet. All the things they thought I'd never find. Post-it notes in Mom's handwriting. Jordan's signature on a payment memo for consulting fees, all with dates and stamps. Receipts. Proof. Truth. There was no yelling, no chaos. Just the slow, dawning realization that the person they thought they could manipulate had stopped playing along. And then came the moment that ended it. Meredith looked up and said, My client has also prepared a backup plan should mediation fail. She's prepared to press civil charges, report identity misuse, and file a public claim to protect her credit and assets. Jordan's smirk disappeared. Dad finally looked at me, eyes wide. You'd really do that? And I answered simply, yes. Because by then I understood. Silence doesn't protect love. It protects power. And I was done protecting theirs. The agreement was finalized the following week. They signed everything, under pressure, under silence, under eyes that finally knew I wasn't bluffing. The house sale was canceled. My name remained on the title. Jordan's facilitation fee? Nullified. All realtor agreements withdrawn and notarized. A formal acknowledgement of attempted misuse, filed and sealed. And then came the email. It was from the wedding photographer. Apparently, Mom had reached out asking if he could edit a few photos from the wedding reception. Specifically, she wanted me removed from the background of one group shot. He sent it to me by mistake. I read it 3 times, and then I stared at my screen with a stillness I didn't recognize in myself. They weren't just trying to steal money, they were trying to erase me, again. Only this time, I wasn't just present, I was permanent. On paper, in contract, in action. So I did something they never expected. I wrote back to the photographer, kindly, politely. Hi there, thank you for looping me in. No edits needed. I will be using that group photo, unaltered, for a piece I'm writing. Please ensure it remains untouched. He responded instantly. Understood. Original files are safe. That same night, I opened my laptop. And for the first time in years, I wrote. Not in a journal. Not for some half-forgotten blog. But publicly. On a storytelling platform for professional women who had been undervalued, overworked, and unseen by the people closest to them. I wrote everything. Not out of vengeance, but clarity. I changed the names, the city, the timing. But I didn't change the truth. I wrote about growing up being the backup plan, about being cropped out of memories, only to be pulled back in when a signature was needed. About learning to stay quiet, then finally choosing not to. The post went viral within 2 days, thousands of comments. Messages from women twice my age saying I thought it was just me. Others asking how to start the legal process I'd taken. One woman even said, reading this gave me back something I thought I lost. And then, an email. Subject line, from your cousin Maya. She had read the story. She knew it was me. And in just one paragraph, she wrote what my parents never had. I saw it too. All of it. You weren't crazy. You were just alone. That message was worth more than all the settlements in the world. I didn't reply. I just sat back in my chair and let the tears come. Soft, warm, and finally welcome. Because for the first time, I wasn't hidden. I wasn't erased. I wasn't edited out of someone else's idea of what I should be. I was fully here, fully mine. And the silence wasn't so heavy anymore. They didn't answer my calls after the story went viral. Not for a week. Not for 2. I didn't reach out again. But silence has a way of echoing when it comes from people who used to shout orders. It didn't take long for the ripple to reach them. Jordan's job offer fell through. Apparently, someone at the consulting firm had come across my article. And while I never used real names, it didn't take much to connect the dots, especially when Jordan had publicly bragged about helping with the family property transition just months earlier on LinkedIn. His title was quietly revoked. Then his profile disappeared altogether. Dad's golf buddies? They stopped coming by, stopped texting. Even his best friend at the HOA left him out of the summer cookout invite. Reputation, once cracked, doesn't take much to collapse. As for Mom, she showed up at my apartment one rainy afternoon, unannounced. She stood at my doorstep with a soggy umbrella and a Tupperware of lemon bars, like it was 1998 and I was still 10 and eager for her attention. "I just want to talk," she said. "Can I come in?" I didn't say yes. But I didn't slam the door either. We sat across from each other at my kitchen table. No makeup, no filters, no buffer of family photos or festive distractions. Just two women, one who had learned to live invisible and one who had taught her how. She didn't apologize. Not really. She said things like, "We never meant to hurt you, and it was complicated, and you were always so strong, we thought you didn't need as much." But strength isn't immunity, and love without acknowledgement isn't love, it's convenience. She asked if I hated them. I said no, because I didn't. I just stopped needing what they couldn't give. At one point, she reached for my hand, and for a second, I let her hold it, but then I pulled away, not in anger, just gently. Like someone stepping out of a shadow and into light for the first time. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text, a real handwritten letter, 3 pages long, folded neatly into a plain white envelope with no return address. It was from Jordan. The handwriting was shaky, like he'd written it in a rush or with a kind of weight he wasn't used to carrying. He didn't say sorry either. Not directly. He said things like, "I didn't realize how much you did." And, "I thought Mom and Dad had it all figured out." And finally, I was too comfortable thinking I deserved more because I was the one who asked for it louder. That line stayed with me. Because he was right. He was the one who always asked louder, and I was the one who always backed down. Until I didn't, and that's what changed everything. By summer, the house was still in my name, but I had made a decision. I wasn't going to live there. I didn't want the house. I didn't want the rooms soaked in old resentments. I didn't want to measure my healing in square footage of pain. So I put it on the market. This time, on my terms. No quiet listings, no side deals, no hidden bonuses. Just a clean, open sale, run through a legal team I picked. And when it sold, I used part of the proceeds to pay off my student loans and move into a warm, light-filled loft downtown. It wasn't massive, but it was mine. And not just because of the deed, because of the peace. No one from the family questioned the sale. Not out loud, but I heard through a cousin that Mom cried when the sold sign went up, and that Jordan had offered to buy it back only to realize he couldn't afford the new market price. Dad, he never said another word. But at the next family reunion, the one I almost didn't attend, he looked at me from across the room and gave a single, slow nod. The kind a man gives when he knows he's no longer the tallest one in the room. It wasn't reconciliation. It was recognition. And that was enough. As for me, I didn't toast at the reunion. I didn't make speeches. I didn't stay long. But when I left early, no one asked why. Because now, they knew better. And I didn't leave empty anymore. I left full of boundaries, full of lessons, full of space that had once been taken by people who only knew how to take. But most of all, I left free. The loft has windows that face east. Every morning light pours in, soft, golden, without apology. There's something about watching the sun rise on your own terms. No one dictating the shape of your life, no whispered guilt, no calendar of expectations to perform around, just warmth and space. I filled the new apartment slowly, on purpose. No rush to furnish, no impulse buys. I wanted each piece to say something, to be something I chose, not something I inherited or accepted out of habit. A bookshelf in the corner, a small dining table with 2 mismatched chairs, a couch I picked because it reminded me of a summer I once spent reading in a cabin, alone and content. And by the window, a tiny fig tree. I named her Grace. She came from a clipping gifted by my friend Mia, who said, "She'll only grow if she feels safe." I didn't realize until later how that mirrored everything I'd been learning. Because safety isn't just the absence of harm. It's the presence of choice. And I had started choosing again. For me, I kept writing, not for revenge, not for validation, but because it helped me listen to my own voice. The one I'd quieted for years. The one that knew when something felt wrong, even when everyone around me pretended it was fine. And little by little, people started listening too. Not the ones who ignored me when I needed them most, but strangers, readers, women who sent messages like, "I felt this in my bones," or "You helped me walk away from someone who made me feel small." Those messages were like windows of their own, cracked open, letting in air where things had grown stale. And then one evening, months after it all, I stood by the window, watching Grace stretch just a little taller. The city hummed below me. My phone buzzed with a message from someone I used to know. But I didn't pick it up. Instead, I leaned against the sill, let the quiet settle around me like an old friend, and whispered to no one in particular, "I made it out." Not in the dramatic way. Not in flames or lawsuits or some grand cinematic showdown, but in the truest, softest sense of the word. I made it out of needing to prove myself, out of waiting to be chosen, out of shrinking so someone else could shine. Some days I still hear her voice, the one that said, "Keep it simple." Not as a suggestion, but as a ceiling, as a subtle way of saying, "Don't expect too much, don't take up too much space." But now, I let it pass through me like wind through an open window. Because simple isn't small. Simple can be beautiful. Brave. Enough. This life I've built, it doesn't have chandeliers or standing ovations. There's no magazine spread, no Instagram perfect love story, just a quiet kitchen, a writing desk by the window, and peace. And that's more than enough. To anyone watching this, maybe your hurt didn't come from a $60,000 wedding. Maybe it came from the birthday party you weren't invited to, the promotion someone else got with your work, the Thanksgiving dinner where your seat was somehow missing. Whatever it was, I just want to say, I see you. The world is loud with people who know how to take. But you stayed soft, you gave, you bent until it almost broke you. And you are still here, still worthy, still allowed to want more. So if this story touched something in you, let that something breathe. Let it speak. Let it grow roots like Grace in the window. And if no one else says it to you tonight, let me be the first. You do not need permission to take up space. You never did. And if you ever feel invisible, remember this: the ones who truly see you won't ask you to shrink. They'll step closer. So leave a comment if this story was yours, even in pieces, and share it with someone who needs to remember they are not alone. We are here. And we are learning to bloom, quietly, fully, and finally, for ourselves.